Welcome back to the day after talking Duck sports. And we had a game over the weekend. There was a bunch of games over the weekend. It was championship Saturday and I guess also Friday. So all the champions are laid out. So we're going to talk about Big Ten championship game, and then we're going to talk about the bracket. And that's why this is going to be a little bit later than I normally post them. But let's get started. Let's talk about this this matchup that we had. So we had number 3 Penn State, which is their only loss before coming in this game was Arizona State. And then we had Oregon, who had run the table in the Big Ten, going undefeated, putting their undefeated record on the line against Penn State. And now I think Oregon is the first team to have played all of the conference old heavyweights, the Penn State, the Michigan, and the Ohio State. All three of those usually are the team that has won the Big Ten forever. And Oregon comes in their first year, and Oregon goes undefeated, beating Ohio State, beating Michigan, and now beating Penn State, which is a very fitting end to the regular season and the championship season. Oregon, the new kids on the block, coming in to the Big Ten, the West Coast finesse team, and they go and they show the Big Ten that they are not just a finesse team, that the Pac-12 is or was for real. And now that Oregon is the Big Ten regular season champion and the Big Ten conference championship game, I don't know how they do that again. So anyway, there's undefeated. Oregon hits 13-0 for the first time ever, and there's more games to play. But let's talk about this Penn State-Oregon matchup. During the game, I thought Oregon at the start of this game was kind of just going to run away with it with the way that their defense had played, but Penn State just kept fighting the whole time. And I don't know. This is where, being just a fan, it's really hard for me to say was Oregon defense just not at its best, or is Penn State offense just played that well? And I don't know, because I thought that Oregon's defense for the most part played pretty well, but I thought their run defense was a little bit lacking there. I thought they lost containment on a couple of plays that resulted in touchdowns. And sometimes as an Oregon fan, it was just a little hard to watch. But let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so first downs. Penn State had 28 first downs to Oregon's 24. Third down efficiency, 6 of 13 and 7 of 13. So Penn State was better on third down, which was, for me, kind of the problem, right? Oregon had third downs of, I think they had 4 third downs from 7 yards to 15 yards. And the defense couldn't get off the field. That's uncharacteristic for an Oregon defense, especially when people are that far behind the sticks. But I guess you got to give Penn State credit. They exploited the weaknesses that they saw on the Oregon defense and got those third down conversions when it was really necessary. Fourth down efficiency, both teams were 2 for 2. Let me go back to the third down efficiency for Oregon. Oregon was 6 of 13. I thought there was some very, I don't want to say questionable, as I'm not a coach and I'm not a huge X and O's guy, but from a fan's perspective, there were some third downs that I was kind of, if I had hair, I would have been pulling my hair out. It seems the other team had 8 men in the box and you still just want to run right up the middle, and that seems counterintuitive to me. It just seems that Oregon could have picked a better play to kind of deal with that. And then there was another series kind of later in the game that it was, I think, second or third and I think it was 3rd and 7 or 8, and Oregon chooses to run the ball, which then had to punt the ball away afterwards. I don't know. Like I said, it was kind of interesting to me as a fan perspective. Very frustrating when all you want is to get that first down and keep moving. But all right. Those resorted in 4th down plays. Oregon was 2 for 2. Penn was 2 for 2. And you know what I very much noticed was Oregon could not stop the short down runs. If Penn State got themselves, within 2 yards of first down, they were getting those first downs. And I think that was kind of disheartening from the Oregon defense that they just weren't able to come up with any of those big stops. But all right. Rushing yards. They put up almost 300 rushing yards on Oregon. That's crazy. With all the other games that Oregon had played, and I think the rushing defense has been the struggle, but not that big of a struggle. That was huge. That was something else. And then Oregon comes up with 183 rushing yards, and I think probably most of that was in the first half when they just pretty much ran at will. Later on in the second half, I'm not really sure what happened, but they seemed to go away from that a little bit, and that was probably because Penn State was playing the run, playing to stop the run. This is a rare victory in a Big Ten matchup that the team that won the rushing yard battle didn't win the game. And I think that is the credit to Dylan Gabriel and the passing offense that they displayed, because it was something else. So passing yards, Penn State had 226 passing yards, where Oregon had 283 passing yards. Total yards per game, 518 for Penn State and 466 for Oregon. So Penn State doused Oregon for 500 yards. So far, we're halfway down this chart, and the only category that Oregon won was the passing yards. Sack yards. Well, Oregon gets a victory there with 1 sack for 6 yards, and Penn State did really good pressuring Oregon, but Dylan Gabriel has a super quick release, and he was just getting that ball out when he had to and finding open receivers, usually Tez Johnson. But hey, interceptions thrown. I thought the first interception was a great play by the Oregon defender. I can't remember who came up with that. I was trying to think, but was it Kobe? Anyway, I thought that was a great play. The second interception I thought was a poor throw by Penn State, and then a great play to just look back and grab that ball. 2 huge turnovers. Whoever had the first one almost had that pick 6. I thought it was Kobe Savage, but I'm not 100% sure. All right. Punt average, Penn State punted twice, Oregon punted 4 times. And here's the question. Oregon's first punt was a game changer. But like that thing was it went forever. And then later when they had the punt, they just couldn't get that same distance. I'm not really sure. Especially toward the end there, they had a punt that just didn't really go where it needed. Didn't get the distance. Penalty yards. Penn State had 5 penalties. I think 4 of those were personal fouls. That was kind of just crazy. A bunch of face masks. And then a unnecessary roughness penalty on a kick. Uncharacteristic. And I think those really hurt Penn State because they were just kind of just giving up field position. And then Oregon had the one bad penalty by Harmon with hands to the face that gave Penn State life in their drive and ended up scoring. Another thing there is I think all year Oregon has had 4 penalties when they had the team stopped that caused the drives to continue, and all 4 of those scored. That's something that Oregon's got to get away from. I thought those hands in the face was just a poor decision. He just kept going and going. If he had tried to pull it down, I'm not sure he would have got called for that, but whatever. All right, fumbles lost. Dylan, I give Dylan a lot of credit for jumping back on that ball and getting that away. I mean, that was so close for being a disastrous turnover, but he did what he had to do. Time of possession, Oregon wins time of possession. So a lot of these categories, Oregon didn't win these categories, but yet somehow Oregon still found a way to win this ball game. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the stats here. Both quarterbacks, I thought, played pretty well, except for those 2 turnovers for Penn State. Dylan Gabriel goes 22 of 32 for 283 yards, 8 of 8 average, 4 TDs, no interception. Played a really clean game and really didn't put the ball in danger. And then he had 4 plays that were tipped at the line of scrimmage that were probably receptions. But Penn State player got his hands up. That's what you got to do. Jordan James and Noah Whittington had pretty good games. Jordan carries 20 times for 87 yards. Whittington 15 for 82 yards. Average 4.4 for James and 5.5 for Whittington. James comes up with 2 TDs. And then I thought the running game, especially in the first half, was really solid. Second half, a little shakier. Oregon's receiving. Well, yeah, we'll talk. Oregon's receiving. Tez Johnson goes off. Tez Johnson has 11 receptions, 181 yards, 16.5 average, and 48 long. I thought it was really smart that when he was running around dodging people, he just didn't take any damage, got down or got out of bounds when he knew he wasn't getting any further yards. Smart play by him, especially coming back from injury. And here's where it kind of is very interesting. Kenyon Sadiq, 2 receptions, 30 yards, 15 average, 2 TDs along with 28. His first touchdown, he straight up hurdles a guy, and the guy just whiffs. It was like one of those video game replay moments. It was insane. My problem with this is both of those were in the first half, and then he completely disappeared from the offense. Terrence Ferguson has 3 receptions, 30 yards, 10 average, 1 TD, 20 long. Terrence Ferguson, making clutch plays when he had to. I just felt like every time the Oregon needed to have a catch, Terrence Ferguson comes through. Trayshawn Holden had 2 for 21 yards, 10.5 average, no TDs. He had a 17 long. I thought him and Stewart had uncharacteristic games. Stewart I don't think he was targeted even once. He just wasn't open at all. And that may have been by design to take him away. And I guess you pick your poison. You either take him away and you free up Tez Johnson, or you take Tez away and you free up Stewart. I don't really know. But uncharacteristic for Stewart not to be on here. Trayshawn Holden had that one big drop that hit him in the hands. But, otherwise, I thought the receivers played a good game because they were taking hits and after the plays and hold on to the ball. And they were just putting up lots of yards. Okay. So, the defense. I thought Penn State's offense did an exceptional job keeping Oregon out of the backfield. And then when Oregon did get into the backfield, they broke containment, and the quarterback would just take off and gash Oregon for big yardage. Who was there? Number 10, Nicholas Singleton, he had 43 yards. Wallace had 59 yards. Their tight end had 84 yards receiving. Oh, wait, this is what we're looking at. Okay, sorry, my bad. So, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, and Drew Aller, mean, those guys were all averaging 10 yards, and that's crazy. That is just crazy. And their quarterback had 5 runs for 54 yards, averaged 10.8 yards, and along a 22. Every time they got close to sacking him, he would just take off and get the first down. I know you got to pick your poison. You can't, if you leave a spy on the quarterback, then you free up somebody else. So I don't know how you stop that, but there's going to be some teams that Oregon's going to play next that are going to have some mobile quarterbacks, and Oregon's got to find a way to shut down this run game. I think this is the uncharacteristic win for Oregon to get outgained on the ground and still win the game. And that's just testament to Dylan Gabriel's accuracy and the playmaking ability of the Oregon receivers, whether it's the tight ends or the wide receivers. But I will say, I know we lose Terrence Ferguson after the year, but I think the tight end group, if Kenyon Sadiq stays at Oregon, is going to be just fine. That guy is an amazing playmaker and an amazing athlete. So now that we got this game all talked about, now we can kind of set our sights on what we're really super excited for, and that is the playoff. And here is the bracket. Here is the playoff bracket. And I think there probably are some surprises for SEC fans. I think they probably thought that Alabama was going to get in there, but Alabama got left out. And you have 2 Pac-12 teams taking up 2 of the guarantee seeds, and you have one SEC and then 1 outlier in Boise State. Big Ten gets 4 teams in, the SEC gets 3, and I thought it was just kind of interesting. So here's my thing, though, is if you played in the Big 12, or no, let me rephrase this another way. If you didn't play in the Big 10 or the SEC this year, which were the 2 powerhouse conferences, and I don't care, there's no argument for that. There just isn't. The Big 10 and the Big 12, the Big 10 and the SEC ruled the polls. They ruled the games head-to-heads, and so there's no question that the Big 10 and the SEC were the 2 best conferences this year. The 2 toughest conferences had the most people ranked in the top 10 and all that other stuff. So, is it fair to have teams from lesser conferences get buys in the playoff? And I don't think so. I don't believe that it is as fair. Now, I this is where I'm torn. I like the fact that they reward a conference championship. If you have to play one, you should get rewarded for having to play one. But here's the thing, is maybe they need to get rid of that. Maybe the conference title games need to go away. And as much as I dislike Notre Dame and this would benefit them, I think maybe they got to find another way to fix that. And maybe so. And here's my thoughts: is maybe if you play in a conference title game, you get into the Pac-12 or you get into the 12-team playoff no matter what. You are one of the 12 teams. No matter what. It's just, I'm not sure you necessarily get seeded that way. And what I would like to see going forward, because I think this is super unbalanced. I feel like if you're Penn State, you feel like you have a better opportunity to get to the title game than if you're Oregon or Georgia at this point. And I just think that they need to find a way to balance this. And here's my suggestion. Is if you're a conference champion, you're guaranteed a slot into the 12 team playoff bracket. And then if your team ranked number 1 through 4, you automatically get a bye regardless of what conference you're from. I don't care. You are 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from there, you take 5 through 12 or 5 through whatever to include. So you take 5 through whatever, right? And then if you're a conference champion, but you're not in the top 12, then you take place of the lowest team on that thing, and so on to fit the conference champions. So maybe if you're 10 through 12, you may not be guaranteed an actual spot in the playoff, depending on how the conference champions play out. So then what would happen is 5 through 12 get matched up by their ranking. And then from there, after those games are played, they are reseeded, and then they're put into the 1, 2, 3, 4 game. And that, I think, is a hell of a lot more fair than the way it currently stands. And because I think there has to be a benefit to playing these tough games earlier in the year, that are some of these tough non-conference games. And right now, I don't think Alabama is seeing that benefit. I don't think SMU played the schedule that Alabama played. But I'm not saying that SMU doesn't deserve to be in the playoff. But I do think that there needs to be some way to figure out the balance of playing tough games and then getting rewarded. Boise State played Oregon, their only loss. But are they really the number 3 best team in the nation? What would be the odds if Alabama were to play Boise State? Do you think Boise State would be favored? Because I likely don't see that. I think if Boise State played Georgia or Alabama, I think Boise State is not going to be favored in that game. I just don't see that. I also don't see Boise State against Tennessee, Ohio, Texas, Notre Dame as being favored in those games. So where is the fairness part of this, right? And so that's kind of that's kind of why I think that winning the conference champion has to remain important. And I think that by guaranteeing a conference champion at least one of the 12 spots, you equate that fairness in, right? Then by playing the tough games, you get yourself ranked higher. And the higher your ranking, the higher your seed in the playoff bracket is going to be. And if you're ranked number 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the nation, then you get a bye your first in the first round of the playoff. And then 5, 6, 7, 8 to 12, they play each other as a regular 5-12 game kind of thing. And then the winner of those games by their current seed then gets placed into the 1, 2, 3, 4 bracket. And so in this scenario, if Texas wins, Ohio State wins, Notre Dame wins, and Penn State wins, then Oregon plays number 8 Ohio State. No, yeah. And then and then so on and so on. And I just think it's a better way to reseed the teams going in. I just think it fits. I don't see. Here's the thing: is I wouldn't have Boise State as a first round bye in if I was creating a 12-person bracket. I just don't see them. Well, I don't have Arizona State as a first round bye either. I don't see them there either. I think Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, and probably Ohio State or Texas, either one of those two teams would be the other four teams in the bye. And I don't know, like that's not for me to decide, but I just think it's a little more fair than the current thing of getting teams that may or may not play a tougher schedule. Like, I'm glad that from the one perspective that SMU got in. I'm glad that SMU got in over Alabama because they had SMU ranked over Alabama originally, and I don't think a loss in a playoff or in a championship game should make you drop in your ranking. And therefore, they rewarded SMU for their year that they played, and that's the current ranking that they held before. And that's why I don't think the conference championship should guarantee you a bye. I don't like that. I think it should be they guarantee you a spot in the 12-team bracket, and then you're ranked 1 through 12, and that's how you're placed into the bracket. And to me, that just makes a little more sense. So this would look totally different. I think that's the most fair thing. I think after the first round games, they should reseed the teams by their ranking, and then fit them in, and that way it's fair that the first four teams play the higher rated, the lower ranked teams by number, right? So if Clemson beats Texas, Ohio State wins, Notre Dame wins, and Penn State wins, then Oregon would play Clemson. That makes the most sense to me in this type of a 12-team football bracket. I think football is a hell of a lot different than the basketball seeding and the way brackets and stuff works. I think the way these kind of tournaments work, I think they should be reseeded after the first round. That's just my opinion. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of how the bracket is laid out right now? What do you think of SMU getting in over Alabama? What do you think of Pac-12 getting half of the buys there on that? I thought that was just kind of an impressive thing. And yeah, I mean, Oregon is 13-0. Arizona State had 2 losses, and they've been playing great football later in the year. Boise State's only losses to Oregon. Georgia, they had a rough patch there, but Georgia just finds a way to win. I think that's that champion mentality that Georgia has. I think they're hungry from last year. And I think Georgia is a super, super dangerous team. I don't envy Indiana or Notre Dame. But here we are. Here's the bracket. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Leave a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Much love, all.